There's always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, live from the heartland, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom and doing what you can to figure out who's going to be in your foxhole every day. I'm Steve Gruber. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Thank you for being here. This show often results in extended periods of American pride, optimism, and uncontrollable enthusiasm, so you have been warned. We're kicking out the broadcast day on Real America's Voice and MTN networks, reaching a growing global audience. Thank you for being here. Three big things to start your day today. Number one, the true colors of more and more Democrats coming out. Elizabeth Warren has now given a full-throated endorsement of the communist running to be mayor of New York City. Of course she did. Number two, Democrats from Texas fled this week to Chicago to protest the redistricting plans of Republicans in that state. Could yield 5 new seats in Congress. Now Governor Abbott calling for them to be arrested. We'll talk about that. But we begin this hour, number 3, with breaking news. Attorney General Pam Bondi has ordered her staff to act on the criminal referral from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, on the entire alleged conspiracy to connect President Trump to a Russian attempt to influence the election of 2016. It's like they've been listening to this show for the past several days and weeks, because Bondi has personally ordered an unnamed federal prosecutor to begin the process of presenting evidence of criminal behavior to a grand jury, and that means indictments could soon be forthcoming. It's a huge development, huge development. It's exactly what I've been calling for ever since the documents began being unveiled by DNI Gabbard weeks ago, and further supported by document releases from Senator Chuck Grassley. Here's what I've been saying. And again, let me go over the list of charges, because it's incredibly important for you to understand how big this is. Conspiracy to defraud the United States, false statements to federal authorities, violations of the Federal Election Campaign Act, wire fraud, obstruction of justice, computer fraud, sedition, treason, FISA violations. And like I said, that's just a partial list of what you could possibly root out in all of this. It's nowhere near a complete list. And like I said, we don't need any winding special prosecutor that takes 2 years to go through and da-da-da-da. No. We need a federal grand jury seated someplace like Florida right now to start hearing evidence and rooting out this problem, and in big doses. And delivering indictments. Yeah, that guy sounded pretty smart, like he knew what was going on. He was right on it. There's a list of the charges, potential charges, a short list. We need a grand jury to deliver indictments and get this done. No 2-year investigation by some federal prosecutor. No, sir. Oh, and by the way, all indications are this grand jury is going to be seated in Florida. Not confirmed yet, but indications are. This is an explosive development. We'll continue to dig into what it could mean, but one thing it means is that we will not be waiting for that special prosecutor to wade through the evidence. That's very good news. All right, meanwhile, we'll get back to that a lot in the next hour in detail. What's the truth about the economy? That's a question today. Is it booming, slowing, headed for chaos and danger? It depends on who you listen to. The U.S. economy roared back in the second quarter of 25, posting a robust 3% first quarter, 0.5% contraction, signaling the economy's got some serious momentum. Leading the charge was a surge in consumer spending, with Americans opening their wallets and driving demand. A drop in imports also gave the numbers a nice lift, as fewer foreign goods meant a bigger boost to domestic growth. The announcement caused the White House to take a bit of a victory lap for obvious reasons. Here's National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett on the release. Here he is.
It's really one of the best GDP announcements or releases that you could imagine, because there's blockbuster growth, way above expectation, and there's also a real almost collapse in inflation. It went down by about 1.5% all the way down to 2.1%, which is the Fed's target. And so to have high growth with low inflation and also high income growth, personal income growth was 3%. That's just like about a sweet spot for a GDP release. And I will add that all of this happened while 127 billion in tariffs was raised, which is clearly not harming the American consumer, and we've been downsizing government in order to be more fiscally responsible. 70,000 federal jobs have been reduced, and there was a 5% reduction in federal government spending while all this was going on.
Yeah, the GDP report directly contradicts the left's tirade against President Trump's economic agenda, especially back in the spring when they were all screeching about a recession. CNN's Scott Jennings called them out on it completely, as he often does. Here he is.
Well, I would just like to go back. I'd like to build a DeLorean and go back to April when everybody here was predicting likely to cause a recession. Investment stops and a recession happens. They're not talking about a U.S. recession. They're talking about a global recession.
What was happening in April,
Lead to
Scott?
recession. Eventually, there being a reception.
Palpable panic on Wall Street, red numbers and worries about something else that starts with an R, a recession.
You called the recession. You called it. You took your shoe off.
And Joe, would you like to see that again?
You took your shoe off. You brought cookies out here.
15%.
You took your shoe off and you said there was going to be a recession.
Economic circumstances have now been put in place that most Wall Street economists of senior note say are likely to cause a recession.
GDP is 3%.
Too early to give a final verdict.
Oh, yeah. See, this is why you can't trust these guys. They'll say anything, they'll do anything. Let's see. The markets continue at all-time highs. Yesterday, the Dow up 585, the Nasdaq up 403, the S&P up 91. That's why you can't listen to liberal economists, because when it's a Republican's economy, they hype up the chances of recession and downplay good reports like this last GDP release. Now, you shouldn't listen to anyone who gets their talking points from the likes of Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren. They're communists. Here's Schumer trying to throw dirt on the economy's points of success. Of course he is. Go away, Chuck, but yeah, here he is.
And while the Trump administration will try to wave rosy headlines about the Q2 number, today's GDP number is in fact a mirage, because some ominous numbers lurk under the hood. Donald Trump's tariffs are weighing down the U.S. economy, spiking costs for small businesses and families alike. And if Donald Trump keeps up the chaos, the dangers for the economy will continue to get worse.
Yeah. Even the guys over at CNBC are tired of hearing the left-wing panicans try to rewrite reality. They took a jab at Senator Elizabeth Warren specifically as she came out there and tried to promote communism. Ha! It was fun. Here it is.
And people that don't like the president and don't want things to work. And, you know, like Senator Elizabeth Warren will come on and say, inflation's out of control and the economy is getting killed by what's happening by these tariffs. This 3% with the market at new highs, and really we haven't seen inflation, you know, go up back to 3%. Maybe it will this week. Maybe we'll see it. But none of these things, none of these horrible things have happened, but they still talk like it's happening. It's amazing.
Well, there's an important lesson there. Don't pick a congressman to be your money manager. That's what I would say. But in the end, Congress has their own reasons to point out certain things. And the Democrats, of course, as you pointed out, really don't want to see the current administration have some success. But there's no doubt that this is some success.
Yeah. And we'll have more of that success after the break right here on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so here we go back into it. Look, the GDP report was a success and a slap in the face to everyone who wants to accuse President Trump of sinking the economy, which they were predicting, especially back in April. Remember, it's going to be the worst economy since 1932. It's going to be the worst month on the market since 1932. It's going to be death and destruction to your 401k. None of that happened. Yes, there was a big drop then, and it's all come back. In fact, we're at record highs again. Lots of opinions out there, but it's only the liberals who are screaming about an emergency, and that should tell you everything you need to know. But while the GDP report was cause for a brief celebration, the latest job report wasn't nearly as sparkling, let's be honest. The U.S. economy added just 73,000 jobs in July, significantly below the Dow Jones consensus estimate of 100,000, and the employment rate clicked up to 4.2%, aligning with forecasts. Now, the revised totals for June and May were particularly shocking. Job numbers for May and June revised downward by a combined 258,000 jobs. In May, we only added 19,000 jobs. June, 14,000. Very weak. Very weak. The revisions also set off President Trump, who fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, a Biden appointee, a woman by the name of Erica McIntyre. She's gone. These revisions pale in comparison to the supposed mistake she made before the election, in which she credited Joe Biden with adding almost 1 million jobs that never existed, before retracting those numbers right after Trump won the election. So with the jobs report's legitimacy questionable at best right now, still not a red letter indicator that the economy is in trouble. It could very well just be softening. No need to sound the alarm like the Democrats are, but of course it's politics, and anything to do to attack Trump. The jobs report also found that hourly wages were up, outpacing inflation, which, that's good news. There's actually more than meets the eye when it comes to the jobs numbers. What's missed in the report is that the jobs lost are foreign-born and government workers. Native-born Americans continue to make exceptional gains. 2 million Americans working now that weren't 1 year ago. Pretty remarkable under Donald Trump. Still delivering on the America First agenda while conducting the largest deportation mission in American history and slashing government bloat like we've never seen before. I don't think we need to hang our heads in despair like Chris Coons, a senator. That's what he wants you to do. Listen.
Senator, we just got this news about the jobs report. Major downward revisions for May and June. What's your reaction?
Well, John, this is the inevitable outcome of the economic chaos that President Trump is causing with his on-again, off-again, up, down, who knows where they'll land, tariff policies.
Yeah. So the jobs report is Trump's fault, but the GDP is just a result of math equations. That's what MSNBC would have you believe. Bizarre. Listen.
So lots of money left our economy to bring goods in before the first tariff deadlines in April. And when imports sharply dropped, the smaller resulting trade deficit boosted the GDP growth figure. That's not so much evidence of economic prosperity as it is the result of a math equation and how GDP is calculated. Again, something that economics journalists should know.
I wouldn't call anyone over at MSNBC a journalist, by the way. Partisan lackeys who don't want voters to realize the world isn't so bad. It's not on fire out there. A lot of optimism, my friends. These are the same people who told you that Joe Biden's economy was great, that it was your own fault if you couldn't pay your bills, that you were just consuming too much. Remember that? They thought the Inflation Reduction Act was a good thing, even though it did nothing to reduce inflation, just pumped billions and billions into green new energy pipe dreams. Joe Biden himself set tariffs on our own trading partners, but it never made the headlines like Trump's did. And I can tell you right now, he wasn't nearly as respected as Trump is, or secured near as many deals and investment as Trump has. But the left follows the script. Orange man bad. No matter what, he's bad. I'm a lot more inclined to take the same attitude that Senator John Kennedy has. Often. Listen.
I wouldn't trade America's economy for the economy of any other country. Certainly not Europe, not China, certainly not Canada. Put things in perspective. A year and a half, 2 years ago, we had 9% inflation. Now we're down to, depending on whose numbers you believe, 2.5% to 3%. I thought that to get inflation down from 9 to 2 to 3, we'd have to see unemployment about 7 to 9%, and we haven't. We've had a soft landing And notwithstanding the jobs report, the economy's still doing pretty good.
Yeah, doing pretty good. Exactly what he said. Even with the jobs report, I wouldn't trade our economy for any other in the world. I wouldn't trade anyone else's leadership. Certainly not for a Democrat who thinks communism is our ticket to success, something I want to dive into a little bit more this week. We'll get to that. Even with some soft spots, the big picture is clear. Growth is real, momentum is building, and America's economy is stronger than they will ever admit. All right, so that's where we are with this. Now, discover what makes American citizenship unique and why it's in decline. In this free Hillsdale College online course, renowned historian Victor Davis Hanson explores the foundations of American freedom, the responsibilities of self-government, and the cultural forces eroding our shared values today. Here's a preview of what you'll learn.
When you have these woke revolutions, it requires all of us at some point to say, no, not going to do this. A nation has to have civic education. They have to know what the Constitution is. They have to know what the First Amendment is. They have to have some idea who the people were that died at Shiloh, what Okinawa was about, who Andrew Jackson was, who Lincoln was, who Harriet Tubman was. If you don't have models of your past, you're going to forget it. We are living in a country that has no resemblance to the visions of the Founding Fathers in the first 200 years of our history. We're losing that ability with tribal politics, wokeness, cancel culture. If you lose the idea of citizenship, and if Americans don't see themselves as unique citizens of the United States, then you don't have a country.
Yeah, you don't have a country. Go to GruberForHillsdale.com. You can learn more about this program, and it's a great program, one of more than 40 that are free. Support these people. They're fighting for you. They're fighting for America. They're fighting for all of us. GruberForHillsdale.com. What a wonderful institution of higher learning. GruberForHillsdale.com. Support them, please. It's free. I don't ask you to do too much today. Do it for free. GruberForHillsdale.com.
The truth.
Well, you know, I sometimes I got something else for you to worry about here this morning, because this is what they send down the wisecracker line. Here's the headline: highly contagious disease surges in some U.S. states amid a report of a possible fatal case. Yeah. Hand, foot, and mouth disease. Sounds lovely, doesn't it? Hand, foot, and mouth disease, HFMD, on the rise in some parts of the United States, according to public health departments. The highly contagious virus, most prevalent among kids under 5, but people of all ages can become affected. That's according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In Virginia, the Fairfax County Health District has published an alert of 6 cases, mainly affecting kids 4 and younger. The U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Health confirmed 189 cases, and the possible fatal case involving a toddler. So you have been warned. You need to look after your health. Wash your hands. How about that? We'll go back to that. Wash your hands. Do not wear a mask, but wash your hands is probably a pretty good idea. And if you're looking to take control of your health, at the Wellness Company, we offer doctor-formulated supplements and personalized care to boost your wellness. Whether it's immune support, heart health, or just feeling your best every day, they've got you covered. Become a member today and enjoy exclusive access to expert consultations, premium products, and health content. If you're ready to start and take care of your health, Visit twc.health/Gruber now. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save 10% at the wellness company. Your health, your way. Go to twc.health/Gruber today and order. They've also got those premium kits. The best kits in the business. In fact, I got one right here. I'm going to lean right over here and grab this for you. There it is. Wellness company, travel kits. This is the emergency kit. You've also got first aid kits, travel kits, kits for all sorts of purposes, whether you're going down the street or around the world. The Wellness Company has the gold standard in emergency travel kits with prescription medications that you might need, antibiotics, antivirals. It's all right here in one kit. twc.health/Gruber. All right, coming up. The biggest headline yet. A grand jury is about to be impaneled. A federal prosecutor named by Attorney General Pam Bondi. Oh, Russiagate, Obamagate. It's getting serious, really serious. Sounds like it could be impaneled in Florida, just like I've been saying it should. Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation next to discuss. We'll be right back. All right, good to have you in this segment, proudly sponsored by Puro Clean's Veteran Initiative Puro Vet program, where veterans find purpose in property restoration and business ownership and entrepreneurship. We salute those who have served. 855-PURO-VET to find out more, purovet.com. It's a great program for veterans. All right, so the big news, without question, that we opened the show with today. Pam Bondi apparently ready to seat a grand jury. She has appointed a federal prosecutor who remains anonymous at this point. It is a huge development, to say the least. We're going to talk about that, plus everything going on with the Texas Democrats on the run. Joining me now, Hans von Spakovsky, Election Law Reform Initiative and Senior Legal Fellow, Edwin Meese Center for Legal and Judicial Studies, and, of course, the Heritage Foundation. Hans, good morning. Good to have you here. Look, this deal with Pam Bondi, it's what I've been calling for. I said, we have got to get a grand jury seated. We don't want a special prosecutor that can take a year, 2 years, 3 years. Those things always take forever. They yield few results. We need action. And here she is putting together the scenario where, wow, evidence is going to be presented. A grand jury gets to decide. Indictments could follow. This got real serious real fast, didn't it?
Yeah, it would have been a complete waste of time to bring in a special counsel. That wasn't needed. A grand jury, the way that works is, they're basically an investigative body. So all of the documents that have been declassified, everything that's been disclosed, everything that Tulsi Gabbard has sent over to justice is now going to be put in the hands of a grand jury. They're not only going to comb through those documents, they have the ability to start calling in potential witnesses, all of the individuals who were involved in this. Now, though they have all lawyered up, as you know, Brennan, Comey, et cetera. So they may refuse to appear.
Yeah, they should lawyer up. They've got real jeopardy here. I mean, you understand, they are in real jeopardy here. They don't have any pardons. They don't have any protection from Joe Biden on his way out the door. Here they are exposed. And because of what Tulsi Gabbard has released, and I've got to tip my hat to Senator Chuck Grassley for just being steadfast. He's like an old hound dog on the trail, and he's just relentless. He's just moping along, very methodical, will not give it up. How important is he in all of this?
Well, he's been very important because of what you just said. He's really pushed for this. And as you know, some of the documents that have been sent over are documents that the Congress had as part of prior investigations, but which were classified. And Congress did not have the power to declassify them. That has now happened. So appendices and annex reports, including, by the way, from John Durham, are also going to be in the hands of those grand juries. And
let me ask you about that. Let me jump right in there on the John Durham question. Look, a lot of questions about what did he do? I mean, he was the guy that a lot of us were waiting for. Okay, that report's going to come. It's going to have some impact. And all of a sudden, it really didn't have much. But there was a lot more there that he didn't share. Why not?
Well, frankly, I just think he's not very good at what he did. Remember, this is the same guy who messed up the Hunter Biden prosecution, allowing the statute of limitations to run in the investigation. I mean, he made one mistake after another. Whether this was intentional or whether he just wasn't very competent, I don't know. But he did not do a very good job.
Okay, either way, this is where we end up. All right, so for somebody who's watched this is what you do. It is your professional focus. What's the timeline here? What do you think this takes? Okay, so I don't think we have a grand jury seated yet, but you've got the prosecutor ready to seat a grand jury. How fast could this happen? And it doesn't matter if they're lawyered up. The grand jury is going to see the same evidence you and I have been seeing and saying, well, this is pretty obvious. Connect the dots. They're right out in front of you. What's the timeline?
Oh, I think they could get this done within 6 months. And that may seem like a long time, but it's not in terms of grand jury investigations. I think we could get something by the end of the year, and that's rapidly approaching from this grand jury. And as you said, I certainly hope this is being done in Florida, because if it's done in D.C., D.C. is so biased one way that you would never get from a D.C. jury any kind of indictments, no matter how guilty these folks are.
All right, so the grand conspiracy, the thing about it is no statute of limitations. If there are other factors, we all point to the Lago raid being part of the extension of this grand conspiracy, which means, look, they're all on the hook. There is no statute of limitations. It's ongoing. There were different people, Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Obama and Susan Rice and Andy McCabe. They're all just in this soup and continuing to talk and have, conversations about how to continue to thwart President Trump, to undermine. I mean, talk about the failure to have a peaceful transfer of power. This is textbook. The Democrats always talk about it, but this is what they did. Nobody else. They did this, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And that kind of continuous conspiracy is very important because that's how they bring all of this within the statute of limitations. Because most of these kind of possible charges have a 5-year limitation period. But if it's an ongoing, continuing conspiracy, well, then I think they can bring it within that 5-year period and still potentially bring criminal prosecutions.
All right. So before we run out of time here, I still have a couple of minutes here with Hans. The Democrats, 50 of them or so, have fled the state of Texas because of a redistricting plan put forth by the governor, backed by Donald Trump, that would redistrict and possibly give an advantage to Republicans in 5 more seats. Well, Democrats have fled to the most gerrymandered state in America, Illinois, where only 15% of the congressional seats are held by Republicans, even though Republicans vote 45% in that state. And this is their defense. Go ahead, your thoughts.
Well, it's just so ironic, when Democrats redistrict to do everything they can to advantage themselves politically, why it's perfectly okay and acceptable. When Republicans do exactly the same thing, they try to redistrict to give themselves a political advantage. Why? Oh, it's unconstitutional, it's discriminatory, etc. Actually, what's discriminatory is really the way Democrats do redistricting. Why? Because they use race as their predominant factor in drawing boundary lines. And so they, almost every time they redistrict, they're doing so in a manner that's really unconstitutional and violates the Voting Rights Act.
Let me ask you this. Gavin Newsom over there in Texas says that he's going to potentially ignore, they have a commission in California to redistrict there, and he's not going to use that. He's going to sidestep that. Look, California has 17% of its members of Congress are Republicans. 17%. Big number there. Right. And he wants to make it even lower. He wants to make it single digit and make the Democrats one party. 30 seconds, Hans. What do you got on that?
Well, what does he think? He's a dictator? Years ago, they set up what's so-called independent redistricting commission in California, which supposedly has the power to do that. Is Newsom saying that he has dictatorial control over that commission? I don't know how he's can order them to do redistricting when it's been taken out of the hands of both the legislature and the governor has nothing to do with it.
Hans, I think that's exactly what he's saying. I suspect you and I will be talking plenty over the next 6 months about all of this as we continue to follow it. Hans, from the Heritage Foundation, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
We'll take a break. When we come back, I've got a big special for you. You don't want to miss it. Straight ahead on the Steve Gruber Show. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. Ivy got me the magic ring. All right, the magic. I don't know if you can see it. Ivy got me the magic ring. It apparently it keeps track of my heart rate, my blood pressure, how well I sleep. It's really important that you take care of yourself, and that's why my next guest is here, because sleep, stress, pain relief, that's what CBD is all about. Tim Roberts, the owner of Patriots Relief, good friend of the program for a long time now. Patriots Relief, pain relief the natural way. Not with heavy narcotics, not with pharmaceuticals, the natural way. Tim, welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me.
You need a magic ring, Tim, and then you could know everything that's going on. It's the magic. What Ivy and I are going to talk about that
My
later.
wife put that one on my finger like 24 years ago.
Well, Ivy put that one on my finger just yesterday, but this one actually does. I mean, there's an app on your phone. You can check everything. It's remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. Checking everything that's going on, and I think there's an alarm that goes off, and they just rush me to the ambulance if anything goes wrong. Anyhow, besides all that, Patriots Relief. Let's talk about this. You've got 47% off today, and CBD is for pain relief. You've got topical. I've got it right here. Use it all the time. It's right here because I get sore knees when I sit in this chair too long. So I've got the topical Patriots Relief right here. Cody, my dog, lived a lot longer and a lot happier life because she had a tincture that we put in her dog food. For people that don't sleep very well, you can help them with that. CBD just plugs into people. And today it's, 47% off to respect Donald Trump. I mean, it's cheap today. Tim, tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We wanted to do something special for this show. So 47% off today only. We're going to throw in the shipping as well. But for anybody that has either tried other CBD brands or hasn't tried CBD, you just need to understand your body is actually supposed to produce its own form of CBD. They're just cannabinoids. God gave all animals on the planet this system that is supposed to maintain balance throughout the body. It's monitoring everything. It's got receptors, but it needs the fuel to function. So if you give it the fuel, the system is going to function the way it is, and it's called balance within your body, homeostasis. So whether you're suffering from stress, anxiety, you're having bad nights of sleep, or you've got pain, CBD is the answer, because you just bring this product in, this CBD, into your system.
Let me tell you something.
And it fuels it.
I want to share a story with the folks here. I, over the last few weeks, was trying a new sleep formula. It's an over-the-counter thing. I had learned about it at an event with Tucker Carlson. Doesn't matter. And I was feeling throughout the day. I'm like, man, I'm just dragging. I'm tired. It's just, I got off, and Ivy said, stop taking that to sleep. Boom, I feel amazing again. That's why I think CBD is the right answer. If you're not sleeping, whatever this other stuff had antihistamine stuff in it, it was not good over time. That's why you need something natural, like the CBD and the cannabinoid system. That's why I recommend it. Again, 47% off. It's almost free. It's a ridiculous price. I don't know how you do that, but that's why you want something natural to help you sleep, to stop the stress, and to control pain, right?
Right. So CBD is derived from industrial hemp. Everybody tries to associate it with marijuana, and they're worried about getting high and all of that stuff.
Nothing like that.
Yeah, we've discussed this so many times. It's not like that at all. This is, this doesn't have the THC in it at a level that's going to cause any type of psychoactive effect. And we even have the products that have absolutely no CBD or no THC if you're going to be getting tested in any way. So the big thing that people need to understand is your body is naturally supposed to have this in it, and age, genetics, environment, all of these factors cause your system to not produce its own cannabinoids, so you don't have the fuel in your body to fight pain, to get you a good night's sleep, to deal with all the stress and anxiety. And CBD, like you say, is the most natural way of doing that.
It absolutely is, and you've been doing it here. It's an American company. It's an American product. He's an all-American guy. I can tell because he's got a red shirt that says USA on it. So it's a dead giveaway. He's an American guy. So you also say prayers for folks when they call up if they're having some extra problems. It's just something you do. It's just something about you that I like, Tim. You'll sit there and you'll talk to people when they call the phone, won't you?
Yeah, that's our prayer board over here. We love when people call in 877-230-1776. We learn about them. We find out what they're dealing with. We can make some product recommendations for them. And we were talking last night, the tincture, which is an oil that
Yeah.
you put underneath your tongue is absorbed sublingual. It is the best way to get CBD internally into your system. And Steve was talking about the topicals. People love these topicals. Our roll-on, our intensive relief rub, and now our super relief salve. These products, if you have any questions about any of them, give us a call. We love to talk to people. We love to hear about you. If there's something we can pray for you about,
And
we'll
so
put you up
much
on our prayer
better.
board, put a little note.
Those topicals, so much better than that old smelly stuff we used to put on when you and I were kids. You know, Ben Gay and Icy Hot. And that's it. No. This stuff is so much better. Trust me.
Crazy.
I'm older. I'm more sensitive to it now. I'm clearly older, which is why I need more of this stuff. Again, 877-230-1776. Look, Tim's a good patriot. Been a good friend of the program. He's on with other people like Cowboy Logic and so forth. He's just a good friend of the patriot movement out there. And that's why he calls it Patriots Relief. 47% off today in respect of, well, the 47th president, of course. It's a great deal. 877-230-1776. PatriotsRelief.com. You can check it out. Call Tim all day.
Gruber
Oh, yeah, Gruber's the promo code. I kind of figure if they're calling this morning, you're going to know who they're coming from.
You would be surprised how many people call and say, "What's my promo code? I just saw you on Steve Gruber."
Well, you know, I learned this a while back. We talked to a guy who does this intensely, and he said, you know, the promo code, most of the people forget them. Doesn't matter what the product is, they totally forget them and never use them. So I wonder about it, you know, when we do something like that, are we getting credit for what we do? Of course we are, and we're doing the right thing. Again, promo code's Gruber. Phone number is 877-230-1776. PatriotsRelief.com. Tim Roberts, take care of an American patriot. Take care of the people that are partners with this program. We couldn't do it without you, folks. We appreciate it. And Tim, I appreciate you.
Appreciate it, Steve. God bless.
There you have it. 877-230-1776. PatriotsRelief.com. Look, it's the all-natural way to sleep, reduce stress, and get rid of pain. Yeah. Even that one in your backside. That one. Yeah. All right, we'll be right back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, Tim Walz. This is not going to surprise anybody. Tim Walz, Kamala Harris's running mate, closely tied to the CCP. Tim Walz closely tied to the CCP. Are you surprised by this? No. Of course you're not. Newly released internal memos confirm the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI have had long-standing concerns about Tim Walz in his connections to the Chinese Communist Party. This comes to you from justthenews.com. My good friend, John Solomon, hitting it again. China is happy, one Homeland Security employee wrote in an explosive message to the group that he called NST-NFT Biweekly Sync on August 7, 2024. That was one day after the Harris announcement that Walz would be her running mate. China is happy. Huh. That's what the intel community said about Tim Walz being selected. I mean, that's pretty damning, isn't it? Pretty damning. All right. Well, the elites were getting rich off crypto. Hardworking American patriots were being left behind, but not anymore. How about Block Trust IRA? Changing everything, bringing the crypto opportunity to real Americans like you, and it happens more every day. You know, the United States is going to buy billions in crypto now. With crypto fueling President Trump's America First economic miracle, now is your chance to join the movement. The Animus AI trading platform runs 24/7, crushing old school strategies. It helps patriots like you build serious wealth just like the elites. It's been named the #1 crypto tech platform by Bitcoin Magazine. Block Trust IRA offers up to $200 million in protection, and some of their clients have seen returns of 250%. Whether you're a teacher, a truck driver, you're retired, you own a small business, it doesn't matter. This is your time. You can get up to $2,500 in bonus crypto when you sign up now. Go to SteveGruberCrypto.com. SteveGruberCrypto.com, making retirement great again. All right, in the next hour, Rob Manus will be here. We'll also have Brian Jody's the National Press Secretary from the American Federation for Children. We're going to talk in depth about Pam Bondi's decision to put together a grand jury to hear the evidence. Who's going to get nailed? Comey, Clapper, Brennan, McCabe, Obama, Hillary? It's all straight ahead right here on the Steve Gruber Show. always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, here we go, diving in. Another brand new hour. Glad to have you here for the conversation as we get into it. Live from Studio G, fighting for you from the Foxhole of Freedom. Who do you want in your foxhole if the chips are down? That's right, live in all 50 states. Here we go. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, you'd better pay attention to washing your hands as hand, foot, and mouth disease is on the move. Yeah. Number two, the AWOL Democrats from Texas could be learning a very hard lesson because the Lone Star State will get new congressional districts. That's almost certain, and they could be facing serious charges and fines. They could even lose their seats. And number three, all right, this biggest, look, it is the biggest story of my lifetime. Coming into full relief more every day. We just talked to Hans von Spakovsky in the first hour. Colonel Rob Manus will join me here. He's going to touch on this a little bit later this morning. Why? Because it's really important. That's why. The whole grand conspiracy. Barack Obama, host of co-conspirators, led a charge to bring down President Donald Trump after he was elected the 45th president of these United States by co-opting a false story, first created and paid for by Hillary Clinton and her campaign during the failed 2016 presidential election effort on her part. It was then turned into a years-long conspiracy to paint Trump as being in league with Russia and Vladimir Putin, but none of it was ever true. We know that because the evidence keeps coming out. We knew it then, but now we have piles of evidence. With Trump in office as the 47th president, his attorney general has done what I have been calling for ever since DNI Tulsi Gabbard announced she had found proof of a long conspiracy to undermine Trump and the U.S. government. Pondy has picked a federal prosecutor to present evidence of the crimes committed by Obama, Hillary, John Brennan, James Clapper, Andy McCabe, Susan Rice, Adam Schiff, and, well, you just scores of others. And let me tell you something. This is just the beginning. And for MSNBC and CNN both trying to claim yesterday there is no proof of any wrongdoing, it's just some kind of distraction. Let me go ahead and remind you of a few things, all right? Here is what the grand jury is going to hear in part. Listen.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't.
It wasn't. Irrefutable evidence. Of course, there's lots that she said that day, and it goes on and on. Irrefutable evidence. And my friend John Solomon, just last night in the War Room with Steve Bannon, laid it out in detail. This is very serious. And Russiagate, Obamagate, very real. Listen to this.
I think a series of subpoenas starting to go out now, and subpoenas will start with federal agencies, intelligence agencies, and the FBI won't need a subpoena. They can turn it over. But other agencies like the National Security Agency, the CIA, the Director of National Intelligence, any whistleblowers who've come forward that might have possession of private information, all of that is likely to be the next round. You'll see a blizzard of subpoenas to start the gathering process of the evidence, and then once the physical evidence is in, you'll start to see people be asked to appear before the grand jury. If they won't do so willingly, they'll also be subpoenaed. So it's not unlike what you see in Congress, except that it happens in the secrecy of a grand jury in a federal courthouse. The big mystery to me, and I haven't been able to get it confirmed yet, is where is this grand jury going to be impaneled? Will it be in Florida? We just had a Miami U.S. attorney finally confirmed. People are very high on him. Does it go to Florida? Does it start in D.C. and transfer later? We don't know that level of information yet, but we're working on it.
Nobody doing better work covering this right now than Solomon and Bannon. I'm telling you, we We do fine work here, but don't kid yourself. John Solomon is one of the few investigative journalists still alive in the wild that cares about journalistic integrity. He's the best in the business. Believe me, he is the best in the business. All right, so on MSNBC, of course, a completely different narrative. The most predictable claim from David French saying Trump deserved to be investigated, but Obama and company, well, they're being unfairly targeted. It's just not right. Of course, listen.
I don't think any fair-minded observer could look at the Trump indictments and think these were specious, that there was no cause to bring these indictments. There was abundant cause to bring these indictments. And in fact, a person would be indicted who is not a former president 100 times out of 100 for very similar conduct. And in fact, many people have been indicted for similar kinds of conduct in the past. So what this is really is an effort to sort of create a law-free zone for sitting politicians, or at least sitting politicians that are MAGA sympathetic, or Donald Trump himself, of course.
Please.
And so, again, we are seeing the phenomenon of the Trump administration engaging in the exact kind of weaponization of the justice system that they've been accusing the other side of for years.
Yeah, MSNBC is the news version of a manure spreader. Old-fashioned one. The one's kind of sloppy, just throwing cow crap all over the place. Grew up in the country, you know what a manure spreader is. Well, that's what that is right there. It's also a bit of a blivet. That's 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound sack. We're a little more colorful when we're not on a family program, but that's what that is. So Attorney General Pam Bondi directed her staff Monday to act on the criminal referral from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. All right, follow through on this. And said it's time to open a grand jury investigation. Bondi personally ordered an unnamed federal prosecutor, and I don't know that we'll ever know this person's name, not for a while. At some point, we probably will. To initiate legal proceedings, and the prosecutor is expected to present department evidence to a grand jury, which would allow the department to secure indictments. Indictments. As you heard Hans say earlier on the program, if you were with us, he said you could see indictments before the end of the year. And now you might think, well, gosh, why can't they be this week? It takes a little bit of time. Look, how long have we been sitting here asking for somebody, anybody, to be held accountable? How long? So, a little bit longer won't hurt. The good news is Pam Bondi is moving forward with a grand jury. It is a remarkable development, and one that I applaud strongly. All right? If you're tired of being in pain every day, try ExodusNow.com. Exodus, a natural holistic supplement combining 2,000 years of ancient wisdom with modern science, featuring 7 biblical ingredients: frankincense, myrrh, cumin, all paired with the groundbreaking benefits of molecular hydrogen. You've heard about that, designed to soothe joint and muscle discomfort, boost your energy, and reduce inflammation. If you're living with chronic inflammation, you're not alone, but you don't have to suffer anymore. Trust me, I take this every day. Try ExodusNow.com. Try ExodusNow.com. And now that I've got the magic ring, it'll tell me my heart rate, my sleep patterns, my blood pressure, all of that. What if it tells me if I've had too much to drink? Try ExodusNow.com. That's the other way to go. We'll be right back. Are you ready to retire? All right. Look, we got to look out for kids in this country more than we do right now. The dilemma that isn't why Democrat governors shouldn't waffle on school choice and tax credits. Look, the money should follow the kid. We believe that here for a long time. We have success in this country. You can look at charter schools and schools of choice. They outperform the public schools in many big cities. And yet, Democrat governors try to block the kids from getting out of a failing school and getting into a successful path to learning and to a successful path to being a productive citizen. Brian Jodas is the National Press Secretary of the American Federation for Children. He joins me now. Brian, nice to see you here on the program. Look, this is the fact. Many of these charter schools, many of these private schools, the parochial schools, they outperform the public option incredibly. Why would we not give kids the chance to learn, to succeed, to become productive members of society? Thank you for being here. And where do you want to begin?
Well, Steve, great to be with you and good morning. And look, I was listening earlier and you've been talking about accountability.
Right.
And it's a really great narrative for our conversation because for far too long, there really has been a lack of accountability across this public education system that, look, for many kids, it's meeting their needs. But for those who it does not, their family should be empowered to go find the environment that's going to work best for them. And look, I know there's a Michigan-Ohio rivalry and you're a Michigan guy, but to your south, the most recent data out of Ohio shows that kids on their school choice program, it's been around for about 20 years, they're outperforming their peers. They're actually having higher attainment rates to get to college. They're more likely to graduate, while at the same time, though, while they might be outperforming, those public school kids are actually doing better when they're in and around the program. So it's a rising tide. It is the way that you empower families. You get kids in the place that best meets their needs. Money follows them, but the teachers union doesn't like it, so they fight it every step of the way.
Well, that's right, because they're not empowered to take money from those private schools and those charter schools. They can't go in and reach into somebody's pocket and take cash, those being the unions. You're exactly right. Look, I don't have to look to Ohio. I can look to Detroit and say, look, all the charter schools almost across the board outperform the public schools in the city of Detroit. Look, Michigan used to be one of the top five school systems. Michigan used to be top 5 in education. Right. We're now in the bottom 10. Maybe we need to start following and paying attention to Mississippi, Ohio, and other places where it's working. Isn't that right, Brian?
Exactly. And it's also not a spending issue. So they'll tell you, we need more resources. I looked it up right before we got on the air. Detroit spending about $17,000 a kid in public schools, yet only 6% of them on the most recent NAEP scores are proficient. Meanwhile, private schools across Detroit are maybe having tuition at about $8,000, maybe $10,000 a student. I care to bet they're doing very well. And it's really right. To that point. It's about.
I think if you look at Flint, you'll find that they spend even more money in Flint, Michigan, and the numbers and the performance are just as dismal. So look, why would the teachers union, or why would parents even allow to ignore what is an option that is really working? And here's what I believe, Brian. I think that the money should follow the student. I believe that for a long time. I don't give a crap about the AFT or the NEA. I care, or the MEA for that matter. I care about the kids and I care about the future, because those kids need the best education possible to contribute to this thing we call America. And so I'm done with the unions. I'm done with the failed education system. I'm done with kids that can't read, write, or do arithmetic. It's time for a better path forward, and so I'm with you.
Well, and you've got the same mindset as everyday Americans, right? And because we sit at the kitchen table and we sit across from our students and we interact with them and we watch them across their journey and we see that the way the life is happening for them, and we want the end user in this, like you do, the student, to be the one who's at the center of this. And that's the beauty of school choice and the beauty of school choice programs. And whether that's public charter schools, homeschooling, private school choice programs across the country, they're student-centered investments back into that student. That's why we're so excited for the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which enshrined the very first of its kind national tax credit that can be used across the country to grow school choice, even in states like Michigan, where you have very limited private school choice programs. And so this is a really big win for students. And that's the key, right? Student-centered investment, student-centered funding.
Well, you're exactly right, Brian. And look, we saw, I think it really began about 2022-23 in Virginia, because that was the rise of the parents saying, stop. You can't just take my kid and turn Sally into Stevie, or the other way around, and you can't do that in secret. And we get to know what's in the educational plans, and we get to be part of it. We're the parents. The government is not the parent, we are. And there's this rise in parental rights and demands to be involved and demands for better outcomes. Look, public schools in too many places are failing the American school child, and we need to do better. And if this is the path to do it, then it is. But you also made a great point. In places around this country where you have successful charter schools, you also have successful public schools. It raises everyone. I'll give you the last word.
Well, and I think you hit on something there, that time frame, because you're a few years after COVID, and families were really faced with watching the way in which education was delivered to their children, the way in which they consumed it and sent it back out, and also just the lack that was there. I mean, we went through this in our own household, and a lot of families said, this just isn't meeting our needs anymore. We couldn't get answers on when we'd go back to school, and then when they got back to school, the influence machine was cranked up even more. And so all this is about is letting families and parents be in the driver's seat. Every state's going to have school choice soon. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act unlocks something really incredible, and we're excited to see the way in which it grows and the way in which it can help kids in every state in America.
Yeah. Greatly appreciate you being here, Brian. He's from the National Press Secretary of the American Federation for Children. We need more common sense conversations. Look, if it's not working, admit it. If something else is working better, admit it. Do what's right for the kids and not what's right for your ego or your fundraising operation that has nothing to do with the kids. I think that's where we'll leave it today. Brian, thank you for being here. You come back anytime.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Really appreciate it. There you have it. Look, it's about the kids. It's about education. It's about making it a better country with better people. Colonel Rob Manus is around the corner here. He says we must bust the repair monopolies. What does he mean by that? We'll explain coming up on the Steve Gruber Show. Elizabeth Warren, finally admitting she's a communist. I mean, it just took a little bit of time for it to finally come out. Admit she's a communist and not an Indian. I mean, you got there. It took a bit of time to get there. But anyhow, what I mean by that is Elizabeth Warren is giving a full-throated endorsement, that is, of Zohran Mamdani, the Democrat socialist candidate to be the next mayor, and most likely to be the mayor of New York City. It's not boding well for those in New York. He wants to give $100 million for trans treatments. He wants free housing and health care for illegal immigrants. He wants more money, and he wants to dispose of the police department. He wants to get rid of this elite group of NYPD officers. They're the ones that rushed into the building during that horrible shooting last week. When the guy came in and was shooting up in Midtown, it was this elite group that rushed in and neutralized him, right? Zohran wants to get rid of that group of officers. Apparently, he just wants everybody to get along, have social workers there. Let's just talk it out. Let's just get in and talk it out. Come on now. Anyhow, Elizabeth Warren, full-throated endorsement. She wants to raise taxes on wealthy people in New York. You know what's going to happen? I mean, do they not have access to an Ayn Rand novel anywhere? The Fountainhead? Atlas Shrugged? Anything? Anthem? Anything? From the Ayn Rand collection? Because if they did, they would see the error of their ways. At least I would hope they would. Right? I would hope they would. But she's giving a full-throated endorsement to the Democratic Socialist. Probably the same thing for the guy running in Minneapolis. So it goes. Still coming. Colonel Rob Maness will be here. Congress must bust repair monopolies. What does that mean? The Repair Act. We'll discuss it right after the break here on the Steve Gruber Show. Got it. Well, my next guest I've got to know pretty well over the last couple of years. Colonel Rob Maness, retired Air Force colonel, former wing and squadron commander, veteran of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, a survivor of the attack on the Pentagon on 9/11. Joining me now, Colonel, nice to see you this morning.
Hey, good morning, Steve.
And you're going to bring to our attention something that is so typical government. when you have the ability to fix something, they're like, no, you got to go through the right channels. You got to go through this and that. And what often happens is people get stunted and blunted in being able to fix something. For example, in a combat zone, a civilian contractor authorized to perform basic repairs, and that can be the difference between mission success and mission failure. What is the Repair Act? That's what this is called, the Repair Act, introduced by Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri and Congressman Neil Dunn of Florida, the Repair Act. I guess we need this legislation. Tell me what it is and why we need it.
Well, the essence of it is you captured it pretty well. You know, say I've got an aircraft squadron and we have an organic parts manufacturing capability and repair capability, but the contractor has restricted access to the intellectual property or the repair specifications or the parts manufacturing specifications because they're trying to protect it from their intellectual property perspective. And this bill removes that ability of that contractor to restrict that data. But there's a civilian side to it too, Steve, and that is on the auto parts and auto repair side of our civilian economy. There's a little bit over 350,000 independent auto repair shops, and they charge a lot less, like 35 or 36% less to do repairs. But the auto manufacturers are restricting their access to the data and the information they need to be able to do the repairs on the vehicles. So those two things really need to happen, especially from a national security perspective. But the reason why I support the bill on the civilian side is a lot of those repair shops are veteran owned, and it's hurting their ability to make a good income as a small businessman.
Veteran owned business. Okay, so I came up with two quick examples here for folks to take a look at. Here in Michigan, by the way, for anybody who lives here, you know that summertime is filled with convoys of military vehicles headed north to Camp Grayling or south after they do training exercises like they did not too long ago with the Taiwanese military and so forth. They do big training exercises. So there's been this new generation of vehicle. I'm looking at that thing going, what is that? It's not a Hummer, of course, which we've seen in years. It's developed by Oshkosh Defense. It's called the JLTV, a new generation of tactical mobility armored vehicles. So that's one of the things. If Oshkosh doesn't give the specs to people to fix, and I'm not saying they did or didn't, but that would be an example. Here's another one. General Motors Defense launches a brand new Chevy Silverado. I mean, this is a Silverado that's got bulletproof glass. I mean, this is a pretty good-looking pickup truck. Not going to kid you. It's a military-grade pickup truck, and it's all in olive drab. I love it. But again, if GM doesn't, and I'm not saying GM did or didn't, but if GM doesn't give the specs, the technical information on what's in that drivetrain, that motor, that transmission, whatever it is, it can really cause problems in the field. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, and in the days of digital technical manuals and parts specifications data and those kinds of things, and we're in those days, it's a lot easier for a contractor or a big business to restrict access to that data and maybe charge higher prices to get access to it. And that hurts our national security readiness because our folks have got to be able to do timely and rapid repairs anywhere in the world, no matter what their circumstances are. And this bill will alleviate that issue.
All right. So I find it shocking that we go and procure billions of dollars of whatever it is, right? Planes, trains, automobiles, military vehicles from GM or Oshkosh, and we don't get the operations manual. That's not part of the deal. We don't get we don't get the intellectual property. Come on, whose oversight is that? That just seems like that is such a government thing, Rob.
Well, you know, the Pentagon is the largest bureaucracy in the history of mankind, which also means it's not necessarily the intent of the people running it want it to be the worst run, but because of the multiple layers and the depth of that bureaucracy, it's extremely difficult to get the right thing done every single time. And this is one of those issues. It seems silly, but it's an effect and an impact of modern times with this digital data access and information and intellectual property access. And they didn't negotiate in the contracts the guarantee to be able to get access to this data anytime, any place in the world in order to do our own organic repairs. The contractor wants to do the repair themselves. They'll send people and parts to get there, but it's not necessarily going to be in time.
Well,
And they want to charge you extra prices to do it.
It reminds me, look, when we were younger, and yes, Rob and I were younger once, when we were younger, you could go and you play with the carburetor, you change some spark plugs, you work on a car. I open the hood I've got a Chevy pickup truck in the driveway. I open the hood on that thing and I go, there's nothing I can do here. I can put in washer fluid and I might be able to change oil. Beyond that, I got nothing because it's so complicated. You know, it's not exactly a 1970 Dodge Dart anymore under the hood, right? It's just, I mean, so the same thing is complicated in military. You've got all these computers and all these systems and all this AI stuff working, right? Especially, probably a lot more AI in this military version of the vehicle than in my version, right? So it makes it more complicated. We need to have people to have the ability, our mechanics in the field, in a hot LZ, they need the ability to work on this stuff real time right now, no questions asked. I shouldn't have to beg for the information. That's where I am with it. I think this is a great idea, the Repair Act. I think you've nailed it.
Well, thanks, Steve. We appreciate that and appreciate your support on it. It's very important for our young people to have this ability to do this, and it'll help the civilian economy too, as long as folks that are veterans that are running these independent automotive repair shops.
Well, look, it's not like the guy in a hot landing zone, in a hot war zone, and his truck breaks down. He doesn't get to push OnStar. Hello, your OnStar advisor here. How can I help you? It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't, right?
No, it doesn't work that way. And you can't, there's not a special satellite up there ready to beam down all of the technical data to your armored iPad.
Yeah. OnStar, what's your emergency? I've got incoming rocket-propelled grenades. Can you help me? I mean, come on now. Anyhow, some of this stuff in government, Robin, it makes me laugh. It's serious, but at the same time, it makes me laugh because how can this even be an issue? Why do we need legislation? This should just be so damn obvious. Give us the stuff we need so we can be active and be mobile and fix things that go wrong in the field. Anyhow, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, it goes back to this legislation will reset that and require these contractors, if they're going to support DOD and sell their products to DOD, they have to guarantee the access anywhere, anytime. And that's the intent of this bill. It's good for everybody involved.
There you go. Colonel Rob Manus, good conversation, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, good talk. He's a good man. I like him a lot. All right, 1775 coffee. If you love coffee and you want good, proud coffee, it's what we drink here every day. Anthony and I have a contest. See who can drink the most coffee every morning. We do it until our hands shake. Well, that might not be true, but 1775 coffee, it stands for something. By the way, you get a big discount if you use the promo code Gruber. 1775coffee.com. Promo code Gruber. They got a package right now worth $200. They're selling it for less than half price, $99. Roasted by Patriots, for Patriots. God bless America. 1775coffee.com. Promo code Gruber. All right. So here we are, back to it. Look, talked about this when Mark Carney was elevated to be the Prime Minister of the nation of Canada. We just jacked up the tariffs on Canada because Mark Carney is, look, he's a communist. He's just another one of these globalists. He had citizenship in 3 countries, was not elected by anyone in an election, and now he's the Prime Minister of Canada. Canada is in deep trouble. Canada is in deep trouble. That is just a fact. They've given away so much. They've brought in so many, just packed the country with migrants, just like they've done in Europe. Canada is in real trouble politically and financially. And because of that, Alberta sticks out. Alberta sticks out because Alberta is wealthy in natural resources. Let's see, oil, gas, timber, farmland, fresh water, list goes on. Great deer, too, by the way, and moose hunting and bear hunting, but that's just an aside. So Alberta, they're going to hold a referendum, we're told, in 2026 to consider independence. And it was given about a 30% chance, maybe 35% chance, or 35% support when Mark Carney first was elevated to become Prime Minister to take over for Justin Trudeau's failed leadership. Right? So, in Alberta, there is now an effort underway to really create support, broad-based support for independence. There are ads on the air now, and I want you to hear one of them because, I'll be honest with you, pretty damn well done. Listen.
We could lead the world in energy, innovation, and freedom if we had our own country.
$79 for steak. Alberta needs to leave this country.
When Alberta goes independent, we'd pay 0 income tax in 5 years. Serious. That's like getting a raise overnight. Mass immigration is breaking the system, and that's why Alberta needs independence. We can build a system that works.
I'm done waiting. The second that independence petition drops, I'm signing it so I have a future.
Pretty powerful, isn't it? You see that steak? $79 for a package of steak. You got a lot of beef cows in Canada. Apparently not enough, and the prices are out of control. Taxes. You've got the GST and the PST, which is the government tax, and then the provincial tax. When I was up there with Ivy, I don't know, 10 years ago now, we were talking to a couple of folks, and they were doing okay. They seem to have a pretty decent life and income, but they said they paid almost 60% of their paycheck went to taxes. Can you imagine? The provincial sales tax, the government sales tax, all the other taxes there. I mean, it's mind-numbing. We met another guy here recently who was at a business conference we were attending. He was from Canada. He said there is no way now in Canada to pass your wealth to the next generation. They tax it away from you. You can't, if you want to save some money and you want to give it to your kids in a will, however that might work, no way to do it. There is no mechanism left in Canada for you to send money to the next generation. They basically confiscated all of it. That's socialism, and it's borderline communism. It's what some people would support here. In fact, let's just jump to bite 3, because here's what I told you about earlier. Elizabeth Warren, communist, supporting another communist, Zoran Mamdani. Listen.
Progressive social. Is this what the party should look like?
Yes. You bet. The Democratic Party needs to stand up and be clear. We are the party that fights for affordability for working families. That means child care. That means housing. It means health care. It means making this country work better for the working people who make this country work.
All right, last question.
I get a little excited about this.
Yeah. Yeah, there's your communist. So the Jeffrey just sent me just a little note on this. Alberta accounted for 84% of the national production of oil in the year most recently reporting 2023. Saskatchewan was next with 10.2%. I think that the prairie provinces, which are Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, could come as a block. Collectively, they've got great natural resources. Alberta is the crown jewel of it all. But Saskatchewan could come along, Manitoba could come along, very conservative, could join the United States, or it could be a landlocked country, which is never good, by the way. Landlocked countries have difficulties, but there's that. Oh, and one last thing I want to share with you before we get out of this hour. The garbage, sugar-laden foods, they're being taken off the SNAP program. Good. They're being removed from the SNAP program. Listen to this.
Since my confirmation, our department has encouraged states to think differently and creatively about how to solve the many health issues facing Americans. One way is by not allowing taxpayer-funded benefits to be used to purchase unhealthy items like soda, candy, and other junk food. The number one purchase by SNAP recipients is sugary drinks. SNAP is a supplemental nutrition program meant to provide health food benefits to low-income families to supplement their grocery budget so they can afford the nutritious food essential to health and well-being. That is the stated purpose of the SNAP program.
Right.
The law states it, and President Trump's USDA plans to deliver on it alongside our partners at HHS.
If you have any argument with that, go to your computer and look up Mountain Dew Mouth. It's a real thing. Mountain Dew Mouth. Go ahead and look that up for all that sugary drinks. Picking out Mountain Dew, yeah, a little bit. Back with sports. All right, time now for sports with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. There were 13 games in Major League Baseball last night. American League winners included Boston, Detroit, and Houston. National League winners included Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and Arizona. In the NFL, Buffalo Bills running back James Cook sat out practice for a second straight day yesterday as he looks for a contract extension. He's in the final year of his rookie deal. He's holding in at Bills camp, meaning he is showing up at practice but not participating in drills. He rushed for 1,000 yards and 16 touchdowns last season for the Bills. In the NBA, the San Antonio Spurs gave All-Star De'Aaron Fox a 4-year contract extension worth $229 million yesterday. Fox came to San Antonio from Sacramento in a trade deadline deal back in February. He's now under contract until 2030. And the first college football coaches poll came out yesterday. Texas and Ohio State are 1-2 in the rankings. They play each other on August 30th in Columbus. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, so here I am. I'm just going to go through these pictures of Mountain Dew. I'm going to post some on the social media platforms just so you understand what Mountain Dew Mouth is. And Mountain Dew Mouth is just repulsive. Basically, your teeth rot out of your head. It's probably worth some methamphetamines in your mouth. And if you do both, well, you got a double bonus. Mountain Dew Mouth is what's created by excessive sugar in your mouth from drinking, yes, Mountain Dew and other high sugary drinks, which now are no longer available because Brooke Rollins says we're not going to do that anymore. The agricultural secretary says we're not going to give away sugary drinks and piles of sugar. It's supposed to be for nutritious food. And so the lobbies of the big food companies are probably a little upset, and I don't care. Sugar in that kind of dosage is just poison. They know it, and so do you. Anyhow, let's see. What do we got coming up in the next hour? We've got Christina Bob's going to be here, former attorney for Donald Trump. Got a new book coming out, Defiant Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare Against Trump. Speaker Matt Hall from Michigan's House will be here. Ivy will be here, of course. Big hour straight ahead here on the Steve Gruber Show. You'll want to be here for all of it. look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, welcome to as we kick off another brand new hour here of the program. Got a lot of things I want to talk to you about here today. First, there's a deadly drug. This is number one this hour. A deadly drug stronger than fentanyl spreading rapidly across America. Nitazens, or nitazines, 10 times more potent than fentanyl. That's great. Number two, 6 of the 11 Walmart stabbing victims from Traverse City are now home, so that's heading in the right direction. And number three, I want to continue to look at what's going on in Texas. I want to look at what's going on in Texas because the Democrats have fled the state of Texas. They don't want to talk about redistricting. They don't. They don't want to talk about redistricting for some reason. Not quite sure why. But as a result, to avoid that, I mean, they know why. They might pick up 5 seats. The Republicans might if this goes through, right? And so instead of staying and representing their districts and doing what they're supposed to do, they fled. They fled altogether. And here's one of those Democrats, and they fled to Chicago, which is, it's so ironic that they would flee to Illinois and hide behind Governor Pritzker, which, based on Governor Pritzker's size, they could probably all actually hide behind him. But Illinois is the most gerrymandered state in America. 40 to 45% of the state votes for Republicans, and yet just 15% of the members of Congress are Republicans. And Democrats want to complain about Texas? In California, it's 17% of the state represented by Republican members of Congress. That state also votes 40 to 45% Republican, and they want to complain about Texas. Here's one of the Democrats on the run claiming she cannot be held accountable, by the way, by the people of Texas. Here's what she said.
I'm a lawyer. A part of my practice is criminal defense work. There is no felony in the Texas Penal Code for what he says. So respectfully, he's making up some okay? He's trying to get sound bites, and he has no legal mechanism. And if he did, subpoenas from Texas don't work in New York. So he gonna come get us how? Subpoenas in Texas don't work in Chicago. He's gonna come get us how? So let me be clear. He's putting up smoke and mirrors. And I'm hopeful that the media doesn't follow that.
Yeah, well, the media is gonna follow that. And here's the thing. Not only can he charge with crimes, according to the Attorney General in Texas, but they can also remove them from their seats. Yeah. Ken Paxton is the Attorney General in Texas, of course. He says crimes can be committed. Greg Abbott, the governor, says they can remove them from their seats in Texas. That's right. Pretty remarkable, right? Don't want to show up and do your job? Cool. Then don't, but you don't necessarily have the chance to return to your seat because under the Texas Constitution, if you're not representing your district, you can be removed. They're considering those things now. The deadline was 3 o'clock Central Time yesterday to return to work. It's a special session of the Texas legislature. Even little Chuck Todd, you remember little Chucky Todd, the pretend journalist that got booted by NBC not long ago, says the Democrats running away from Texas is a terrible look and a not a great plan, shall we say. Listen to this.
It seems as if the strategy is bring more attention to this, make everybody uncomfortable, right? The more painful you make the process in Texas, the more it's hard to replicate. Maybe there isn't. They may be their own colleagues aren't as interested in this. Congressional Republicans that serve in Texas whose districts are actually going to get impacted negatively also secretly are kind of hoping this goes away too. And I think they think the more painful they can make this in doing it, maybe there's a way to shut this down. So I understand the strategy, and I think You get this. The part that I think is sort of bad, I think it's a bad look for a party that claims to be always trying to protect the democracy, is to hole up in a state that gerrymanders. The state of Illinois. I mean, one of the worst, look, Texas, Florida, Illinois, and Maryland. Those are your 4 giant gerrymandered states. And if you're trying to make a point on gerrymandering, I don't think I'd be going to the state of Illinois as a place to hide.
Yeah. The most gerrymandered state, there's the second most gerrymandered state, he missed it. California. Like I just mentioned, 17% of the congressional delegation from California is Republican, though the state votes 40 to 45% Republican, which means Republicans have no representation at all. Not to mention, most of California's delegation is bogus because it's flooded with illegals, and they have at least 7 or 8 seats in Congress they're not entitled to and don't deserve and should legally be prevented from having, but that's a story for a different day. Gavin Newsom, though, even though only 17% of his state is represented by Republicans, is ready to gerrymander even further to make sure no Republicans are ever in Congress from California. Listen.
Someone in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I go down the list. All of that is on the line here. It's not a gross exaggeration, not an exaggeration at all. Remember, the origin story here is Donald Trump made a phone call so familiar. Just out in the open, corruption at a whole nother level. Do not allow this to be normalized. Told Greg Abbott, I need you to find me, in this case, 5 representatives. These guys aren't screwing around. So I'm not here to, this is not an intellectual exercise. I'm not here to be a member of some think tank. We're here as pragmatists, practitioners. And I've got kids. I care deeply about the 250th anniversary of this great country that we'll celebrate next year. It's all at risk.
Yeah.
This guy's not screwing around, and nor are we.
Well, thank you for pointing out the obvious, Governor. It's not an intellectual exercise. Obviously, you're involved. How can it be an intellectual exercise? Gavin Newsom, he honestly thinks he's going to be the front runner for President of the United States. Everybody knows it's going to be AOC. Maybe it's going to be Zoran Memdani. Maybe he'll be the candidate. Maybe it'll be Bernie Sanders at the ripe young age of 103. Who knows? They sit there with a straight face and complain about Texas, while his state has 17% representation of Republicans in Congress. Well, it's all political. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it's all political, all right. That's how it works. Of course, it's political. Oh, good Lord. Anyhow. Let's see here. Who's up? Who is up next? Let me take the magic sheet put together by Sister Sarah. Let's see. Christina Bobb is up next. You remember her, Trump attorney, has a brand new book coming out here in a couple of weeks. We'll talk to her about that straight ahead here on the raid on Mar-a-Lago. Coming up on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, coming up, my next guest has been in the mix of the swamp for a very long time. In fact, she's still there. She's still there in Washington, D.C. Christina Bobb is an attorney and author of Defiant, Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. She used to work, of course, for the Trump administration. That new book is coming out next month, I understand. Christina, welcome back to the program.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am excited to. You know, last night I was pretty impressed because I have been calling for a grand jury, I think, since Tulsi Gabbard walked out and said, look, here are the goods, right?
Yep.
Because we don't need a special prosecutor to take the next year, 2 years, 3 years. We don't need that. The evidence is here now. And because of Tulsi Gabbard and Senator Chuck Grassley and others, Kash Patel included, we're seeing information. Some of it that's been hidden from us for almost 10 years. So I just put this question up on Twitter, X. I'll let you answer it. How many indictments do you expect? 0, 1 or 2, 3 or 4, a bunch? Any idea?
I think it will be a rolling process. I would suspect that they'll start with the big ones, the ones, you know, you got to cut the head off of the dragon, so to speak.
Right.
And so I think they'll go for some big ones, maybe Hillary Clinton right out of the gate. And then I don't think Donald Trump actually wants to inflict pain on everybody. And we all know going through lawfare for so long, it's very painful. So I think he's going to start at the top, which is good, which is the opposite of what we normally see happen. Start at the top and go until it breaks. You know, go until this weaponization, this abuse of the intelligence community, until they cry uncle. And then I think they'll stop. Because you don't want to burn the nation to the ground. Like, what good does it do to get indictments of 500 people?
No, it doesn't.
The nation, you know, so.
And as divided as we are, you know, on many things already, obviously it'll create a lot more division. But you look at Brennan and Clapper, McCabe, even Adam Schiff, right? These are all people that were involved with this ongoing mess. And then Mar-a-Lago makes it so it's an ongoing grand conspiracy, as it was called by Tulsi Gabbard, the grand conspiracy probe on weaponization. And in fact, your book is about Mar-a-Lago. And some would say the best place, and we don't know this yet, but my guess is this grand jury is going to be seated in Florida because of the Mar-a-Lago raid. You've got this book coming out. It all kind of brings it together, which also means there's no statute of limitations, right?
Right. They definitely have jurisdiction in Florida. This is an ongoing conspiracy. It's been going on at least since 2016. I mean, just with what Tulsi Gabbard produced, we can show that this conspiracy at least started in 2016. Who knows what prior administrations were doing to prior administrations before that. But if we're just looking at the present, 2016, the raid in Mar-a-Lago absolutely gives jurisdiction in Florida to any aspect of this conspiracy. So Hillary Clinton could potentially be charged in Florida, or any of her co-conspirators. Obviously, that's up to the grand jury to decide. But yeah, I would expect this grand jury to come out in Florida, and the nation needs this to happen. It is escalating to a point that is unsustainable, so it's got to stop. So
it does have to stop.
So grateful it opened.
You know, look, it's clear that beginning on the 9th of December, 2016, there was a plan put in place to convert what they knew was not serious and not real. That was the Hillary Clinton Steele dossier. So they converted that and said, we need, in fact, Barack Obama basically placed an order for an intelligence community assessment. That's why he placed the order, here's what I need. And for the people that didn't agree with that, they were blocked out. Only 5 people participated. They're all very anti-Trump people. Everybody else that had a differing opinion was blocked from the conversation, were not included in any of it. And a lot of them, you know, they concluded that there was a lot of falsehoods here. I wonder about these burn bags, Christina.
Yeah.
Awfully convenient to find them. I'm almost wondering, you know, were they left there intentionally? And if so, why? By somebody that's on our side? Somebody who's not on our side? It is something that makes you go, well, how did those not get taken care of if they were truly burn bags?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, burn bags, it sounds salacious, the name burn bag, but for anybody who's held a clearance, a burn bag just means it's a trash can for classified documents. I mean, that's what it is. So it's basically like having a trash can hanging out for 8 years in the same room that nobody emptied. Maybe it's fortuitous, maybe it's a setup, who knows, you know, who knows what it is. But I'm eager to start seeing real proof of real evidence. What Tulsi Gabbard brought out was great. She brought the receipts. We've heard a lot from Dan Bongino. Kash Patel mentioned the burn bags. I have no doubt that they're doing everything they can to put a solid case together, but we haven't really seen anything prosecutable come out of the FBI yet. They're likely holding their cards close to their chest for this grand jury. So that's understandable. But, you know, as a viewer watching this saga unfold, that I played a role in earlier on, I think I want to see the goods come out of the FBI. What do they have? I mean, the FBI has got to be chock full of information, whether information was deleted or, you know, destroyed between administrations, who knows? But all of that needs to come out.
Yeah, and a lot of this covered in your brand new book. Congratulations, by the way, on the new book, Defiant, Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. Give me a couple of tidbits. What am I going to learn?
Yeah, well, President Trump did the foreword, which I'm really excited about. He puts, you know, his stamp of approval on the story. It's what happened. It's the real version of how the raid came to be. I was the custodian of records. I met with the Department of Justice and FBI 2 months prior to the raid, along with the defense team, and it walks you through everything: the emails, the text messages, the timelines. It's the receipts, and then it goes into the rest of my story, which came about after the raid. And all of the lawfare, people see the stories against Donald Trump and they think, oh, you know, that's really bad, but that's Donald Trump. They don't realize that all of these people that are now subject to this grand jury investigation, they came after us. They came after rank and file staff
They came after
members.
you.
They did. I'm still a criminal defendant in a case that's pending. My indictment's been thrown out, but there's an attorney general is still trying to prosecute me. So it has to stop. It absolutely has to stop. So it tells the whole story and it gives you, you know, a peek under the hood of what's actually going on.
Well, Christina, we want you to come back because I want to talk more about it, but I'm up against it at the moment. The book is Defiant, Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. Yes, there it is. Christina, Bob, thank you as always.
Thanks, Steve.
Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon, and we'll be right back. All right, wild pigs found. This is really frightening. Ivy handed me this walking by here a few minutes ago. It just came across the wire from SF Gate. That's a San Francisco outlet, SF Gate, okay? Here's the headline, and I want you to think about this. This is really disturbing. Wild pigs with blue meat found in California with blue meat. All right, so a trapper's out there in Monterey County capturing a series of wild pigs. Wild pigs do a tremendous amount of damage all over the country, but really some big herds of wild pigs in California. They can destroy vineyards and crops and everything, and they can do it in a single night. They get in there, they root around, you know, pigs root through the ground, they destroy crops, and they're just devastating financially. But the bizarre discoloration is a result of exposure to diphenol. Diphenol. It's an anticoagulant rodenticide. That means it's poison for rats and mice. Rodenticide. And it's often dyed blue as a poison. Apparently, the pigs thought it was an hors d'oeuvre. They eat it anyway. Fish and Wildlife pesticide investigators and their coordinator, Ron Borbour, said that the trapper observed the wild pigs eating directly from rodenticide bait stations. The scope of the contamination appears to be extensive across the southern part of Monterey County, along the Salinas River. Don't eat the pigs with blue meat. All right, that's my advice to you. Blue meat. Wild pigs are adaptable creatures, part domesticated, part wild. They can weigh up to 200 pounds. They live in 56 of the 58 counties of California, and they're spreading. Aggressive behavior, including they'll charge hikers. So anyhow, this is pretty wild. Blue meat, because they just go and they eat the poison grain that's there to kill rodents. Blue meat. It's not what's for dinner. All right, now you've been warned. I'll take a break and be back with Speaker Matt Hall of the Michigan House after this. All right, back to it now. Joining me now is the Speaker of the Michigan House, Matt Hall. He's been doing his level best to get good legislation through in a variety of areas. Of course, he's up against a Democrat-controlled Senate that oftentimes does nothing at all. In fact, they don't even hold special elections when a seat sits open, say in the 35th Senate district. The governor won't have the special election, apparently. I don't expect her to at this point. Matt, welcome back to the program. On that point, and we'll get to some other things here, I don't expect the governor to call the special election at this point. Why would she? She doesn't have to, apparently.
Yeah, I think if she was going to call it, she probably would have. But, you know, there's going to be some upcoming vacancies in the Michigan House for Democrats if they win this Detroit mayoral Detroit City Council race. So there's a primary today. There's a general election in November. So it's possible after that she'll need to appoint a bunch of Democrats. Maybe she'll make the special, but the period of time that would cover would be a very short period next year. If
Very lame duck. How many Democrats could be leaving the House potentially?
I think there's three. I think there's three of them that could be leaving. One's Karen Whitsett, and she's
It's too
done a
bad. I
really
kind of
good
like
job.
her. She's kind of a wild card. She's colorful. She'll stand with you sometimes. I kind of like her.
Yeah, she's done a very good job. So we'll see. But she's very popular in her district. I think she's probably going to win. But if these three Democrats move over, that would actually increase our majority, and the Democrats won't like that.
It's interesting. It's interesting that Whitsett, they being the Democrats, tried to blackball her, for having something nice to say about Donald Trump once, and she won anyway. So you're right. She's popular where she is because, she does the job of representing her constituents. What a novel idea. Honestly.
Yeah, she works very hard in her district. She knows her constituents personally, and she really does things to help them. I remember during the pandemic, she worked to make sure every family in her district had all the supplies they needed. If they were having trouble paying their bills, she found ways to help with that. And so, I think she'll win, which is very interesting because she's not radical left, but the Democrat voters like her.
Yeah, there you go. And well, if she's doing that for her people, look, she's out there looking out for her folks. We need more of that. I sit here and wonder oftentimes who's looking out for the folks when a lot of the politicians, and they can be Republicans or Democrats, are just looking out for themselves. People get that feeling a lot, but that's for another day. Let's talk about this. You got some things going on. Life sentences for juveniles. It's been a hot topic, not just here, but around the country. When is it okay to say you're going to prison for the rest of your life? When is it okay to say that can't happen? Tell me about where we are in this conversation and why it's so important today.
Yeah, so we have a radical Democrat Supreme Court in Michigan, and they recently ruled that all of these people, they now consider juveniles people that are 20 and 19. Those are considered, minors. And they're saying these people 20 and under who committed very serious crimes.
Heinous crimes, murders.
Yep, are all going to be given resentencing opportunities to get out of jail early. Now, what we're hearing from prosecutors, especially Democrat prosecutors, like in Wayne County, is that there's so many of these people that are going to be let out of prison that they don't have enough time in this court-imposed deadline to file for resentencing hearings. And what's going to happen is if they don't file the paperwork and file their case for these resentencing hearings, the court will rule that these offenders get to walk the streets. And so what we tried to do, because of this upcoming deadline in early September, was put something through the House to help all these prosecutors ensure they have the time to file all these hearings so that we don't let these violent criminals out of prison. And again, these are mostly in Democrat areas, whether it's Flint, Saginaw, Detroit. This is where we're seeing those problems.
Yeah. There's a reason that the laws were in the way they were. But back to the 19 and 20-year-old point. I hear this happening in other places around the country. In some places, they want to make it up to the age of 25. And yet, Matt, they want 16-year-olds to vote. How ironic is that? They don't think that somebody should be held accountable for their actions at 19, 20, 21, 22, whatever. But they think 16-year-olds should vote like they just made legal in the UK. I think that is insane. Is there any major decision in your life you would trust to a 16-year-old?
Right. No, you're right. So, and there, these courts keep increasing the age of a minor. So, what happened here is all these violent criminals, murderers, rapists are going to get out of prison unless they get one of these sentencing hearings. Democrat prosecutors are struggling to keep up with the caseload. So we put it up for a vote to extend the deadline according to what the prosecutors asked for. And every single House Democrat voted no. And I was trying to understand it. Why are you guys voting no? And the response was, it's racist. It's racist to allow prosecutors like Kim Worthy in Wayne County the time to file these resentencing hearings, to keep all of these, to ensure that these violent criminals get another hearing to hopefully stay in jail.
Yeah. All right, one more thing I want to ask you. Look, if you're 20 years old and you commit a heinous crime, I'm sorry. You're an adult. You made that decision, and that's what you have to live with. Behind bars, if that's what it takes. All right, before we run, I got about a minute here, just over. Cell phones in schools. Most parents are okay with taking the cell phones away from kids in schools. I don't care if my kid has a cell phone in school. Now, I understand the emergency portion of it. And I suppose you could have a cell phone that is not turned on at the moment and still in your backpack. Okay, maybe there's an accommodation there, but generally speaking, do you need cell phones in schools? The answer is no. You don't. What are we going to do about it?
Well, you're right. So this is actually an area, I spoke with RFK Jr. about it. He was urging us to pass a ban on cell phones in the classrooms. Governor Whitmer has called for this in our State of the State. So I worked with Representative Mark Tisdale, and we came up with a bill that would prohibit the use of the cell phones in the classroom, so kids have, stay focused on what the teacher is teaching them. Every single Democrat in the House voted against this bill. It was unbelievable. And so the bill actually failed because a couple Republicans opposed it. So what surprised me just watching this is how Governor Whitmer is having less and less sway with these Democrats. Every one of them against her on it.
Well, let's fight for the parents' rights to keep the kids focused in the classroom. And if those kids commit heinous crimes, let's make sure they're not out to threaten you and me. Matt, I think we can agree on that. Seems like common sense and a good place for us to be. As always, thank you for spending time with us today.
Thank you, Steve.
There you have it. Matt Hall, everybody, Speaker of the Michigan House. Up next, the one, the only, Ivy. Hi, it's Steve. Well, there's a lot going on in the news, like there is every single day. It seems like, we put the show together, or mostly me, and Ivy puts in stuff. Like, she just handed me this thing about the blue pig meat, and I'm like, I'm not eating blue pig meat for dinner. Anyhow, we all contribute, and then something will happen at 7 o'clock at night. It's like, boom, my hair explodes, because I got to start all over again. Anyhow, busy day. Ivy's with me, of course. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
Busy. Apparently, and a little on the bitchy side.
Yeah, the president doesn't keep still, does he? There's always some sort of like new breaking news, especially with, the DNI coming out with all of these new reports and a grand jury and.
That's right.
Actually, Trump was.
I just heard him on CNBC on Squawk Box saying he didn't know about it. So.
He didn't know about what?
About the grand jury. He said they asked him, "Are you in the loop on any of this?" He said, "No, I read it the same as you did this morning."
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So.
I actually did pull a bite from him, and I want you to hear it. Anthony, play it.
I even had them. They were doing me a favor. And that's because the banks discriminated against me very badly. And I was very good to the banks. I had the greatest economy in the history of our country when I was president. And by the way, our economy now will blow that away, and you see it happening. But our economy now, because we're a rich country again, because of our trade deals, we've become a rich country again. But no, they totally discriminate against, I think me maybe even more, but they discriminate against many conservatives. I told that story, and sitting around tables with other people that were conservative or Trump supporters. I think the word might be Trump supporters more than conservative, and I believe what they did is they went to the regulators. Banks are not afraid of anything but a regulator. They're regulators and their wives. They're more afraid of their wives than the regulators. But the group they're really afraid of is bank regulators. And I believe that Biden or Kamala, and I don't think they're smart enough to do it, but the people that are surrounding the beautiful Resolute desk, the high IQ people that are radical left, I believe they told the banking commission, the bankers, that the banking regulators do everything you can to destroy Trump. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did. And guess what? I'm president. How did that happen?
Well, not only that, but as he goes on to say there, but the banks, if you think about all the scandals, and I think we just get so overwhelmed with all the scandals that are going on, and then, it's conspiracy theories.
If I may.
But the banks did actually shut down or
they put a boot on him.
Exactly. Not only him, but conservative people.
Well,
and
conservative people. Look at what the credit cards do. Oh, you want to buy a gun? No credit card for you. Want to buy ammunition? No credit card. You want certain. So the banking was becoming woke and really putting the boot on things and making things. But when you start about the scandals, here's the problem with the scandals. Like the Russiagate thing. Mm-hmm. It was all phony. So they flood the zone with fake scandals. And so then when something real happens, like you're talking about Pam Bondi here, because Trump was on Squawk Box, that's where he mentioned that this morning, what you just played from. So you get inundated with fake scandals so that when the real scandals come along, people are like, oh, is that real? Fact of the matter is what's happening with Pam Bondi is real. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump didn't know about it. What they did with him with the banks was criminal. Mm-hmm. And it's just, they've targeted him from day one. Not from day one. When he came down the escalator in 2015, June, they made fun of him. Mm-hmm. Remember all the, he'll never be president, and they laughed at him and so forth. But when it became serious and obvious that he was going to be the candidate, then everything shifted. It's just like what Barack Obama did after he won the election. It shifted to become a weaponization of everything against him.
Well, and the weaponization of, Twitter before Elon Musk owned it.
True.
And how they suppressed the news, how they suppressed the
Hunter
laptop.
Biden story,
the laptop scandal. When what was it? New York Post came out with that, right?
Yep.
And they completely buried it when they were targeting conservatives. So you have that. You have the banking issue. You have all of these, intelligence agencies working against Trump and his administration, creating these scandals. And, my point is, if they can do that to a sitting president, what can they do to you?
Anything they want.
As an everyday citizen of this country.
Anything they want. Look, Donald Trump had the ability to have money to defend himself and have good lawyers and have the bully pulpit and have the attention of certain media outlets. Mm-hmm. Maybe not all of them, but enough that he could get at least his story out in some places. You don't have that. I mean, we have this media outlet, but it's not the range of the president of the United States by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
And what about people that don't have the money to defend themselves? They get pinched by the government, get steamrolled. You're right.
It destroys their lives. I mean, if you think about some of the J6ers, you know, their lives will never be the same again. And it's really unfortunate that we have this government that's supposed to protect us. And, you know, and really...
It's the question I ask a lot lately.
Go ahead.
Who's looking out for the folks?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who's looking out for the ordinary, for you, for me,
well, you have
for
to,
the folks watching and listening today?
The fact is you have to look out for yourself, and you have to look out for your community. And,
right.
You know, and if you're doing that, hopefully you can do well in this world. But, man, it's just so sad that the country has come to this. And not, I think that we are getting the boat turned around, but this is a deep, deep problem within our institutions, within the government, and it's going to take more than 4 years.
Well, it brings me back to
really
something else I've said here, and you and I have talked about. In order to restore faith in American institutions, FBI, CIA, government, there have to be indictments and prosecutions.
Absolutely.
What Pam Bondi is doing right now is incredibly important.
Yeah, did you see that Rasmussen poll that he released, I believe, this morning, that said something around like 45 to 55% of people want to see, you know, people go to jail for this.
Yeah.
They want to see people held accountable for this. And if people aren't held accountable, I'm not sure how to restore people's faith in our government if we can't do that, because this is just obvious how terrible of it. You know, they just were completely wrong and broke laws and should be held accountable.
They have to be held accountable. The only way we restore confidence in our institutions, and I'm looking for Mark Mitchell here. I'll have more on that coming up. Thank you, Ivy. Love you.
Love you.
All right, it's a Washington Examiner headline, but it is that I just found real quick from what Ivy just told us here. And it is Mark Mitchell and Rasmussen that came up with the poll. Voters, 69%. Yeah, Obama broke the law with Russiagate, must be prosecuted, 69%. That would be unbelievable. That would be an unbelievable number. But there it is from Rasmussen. And if that's true, it's so here's something else that came through all of this, by the way, from the weekend. John Ratcliffe has confirmed that former CIA Director John Brennan, former FBI Director James Comey, and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton are all likely to face indictments because of their involvement in the Russiagate scandal, the grand conspiracy. So these are pretty big numbers. I'm going to have to get Mark Mitchell on the program this week to discuss this because that's a huge number. A huge number of people that would want Obama prosecuted if it's real. So I need Mark here to tell me whether it's real or not. Seems like it's real. So we're going to find out what we can find out about that. There you go. Greatly appreciate your involvement and participation in today's program. We couldn't do it without you. God bless America. Fight the good fight and keep the faith. Like I said, God bless America. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America. Also remember, follow me on X, Facebook, Rumble, Twitter, Getter, Truth Social, all of them. Yeah, God bless America. I'll be right back. And tomorrow I'll be back, that is. Have a great day.